Thanos. Thanos won, even if he lost later. In Infinity War, he did exactly what he planned to do. He snapped his fingers and erased half of all life in the universe. That moment changed everything. Even though the Avengers tried their best, they could not stop him in time. He got all 6 Infinity Stones and snapped, just like that. Thor had a chance to stop him. He threw his powerful axe, Stormbreaker, and hit Thanos in the chest, but that was a mistake. Thanos had just enough time to say, "You should have gone for the head." Then he snapped his fingers. In seconds, half of the world disappeared. People turned to dust. It was one of the darkest moments in the entire Marvel story. The world after the snap was broken. Cities were empty, families were gone, and nothing felt normal. Captain America was leading a grief support group because so many people were lost and sad. Iron Man was stuck in space. Thor became depressed and gave up. Hawkeye lost his family and turned into a killer. Black Widow felt hopeless. The Avengers had never lost like this before. This time, they did not just lose a fight, they lost everything. Some people even thought that Thanos was right. In Falcon and the Winter Soldier, a group called the Flag Smashers wanted things to go back to the way they were during the snap. They believed life was better when there were fewer people. In Hawkeye, there was graffiti on a toilet that said, "Thanos was right." Some people truly believed that the world was better after the snap, even though millions of families were torn apart. Even after the Avengers fixed everything in Endgame, the effects of the snap did not just go away. The world had already changed forever. Some people never got their loved ones back. Countries fell apart. The pain did not just disappear. Thanos won for a while, and that was enough to leave a scar on the universe. That is why his victory is one of the darkest moments ever. Baron Zemo. Baron Helmut Zemo was the main villain in Captain America: Civil War, but unlike most enemies, he didn't use super strength or engage in physical fights. Instead, he relied on intelligence and manipulation to break the Avengers apart from within. His ultimate goal was revenge for the death of his family, who were killed when Sokovia was destroyed during Avengers: Age of Ultron. Knowing he couldn't fight the Avengers head-on, Zemo crafted a plan to make them turn against each other. Born on June 16, 1978 in Novigrad, Sokovia, Zemo was a descendant of Sokovian royalty and a highly skilled soldier in the Sokovian armed forces. He lived a peaceful life with his wife, son, and father until Sokovia was destroyed. After losing everything, he became consumed by vengeance and carried out his plan to bring down the Avengers. In the end, he succeeded. Even though he was caught, he had already accomplished what he set out to do. The Avengers were broken, and their unity was shattered. Zemo's plan began with finding Vasily Karpov, a former Hydra agent who had information on the Winter Soldier program. He staged a car accident to get close to Karpov and later tortured him to get the information he needed. Using Hydra's secret files, Zemo found the key to controlling Bucky Barnes, the Winter Soldier. With a set of trigger words, he could make Bucky follow his commands, which he used to frame him for a bombing that killed King T'Chaka of Wakanda. This set off a chain of events that put Captain America and Iron Man on opposite sides, forcing them into conflict. The final part of Zemo's plan was his most devastating move. He lured Tony Stark and Steve Rogers to an abandoned Hydra base and revealed footage of Bucky, while brainwashed, murdering Tony's parents. Steve had known this secret but never told Tony, leading to an explosion of anger. Overcome with rage, Tony attacked Bucky, and Captain America fought to protect his friend. The battle ended with the Avengers completely divided, just as Zemo had intended. What made Zemo's victory unique was that he never physically fought the Avengers. Unlike other villains who relied on brute force, he used manipulation to play on their emotions. His strategy worked perfectly. He turned the heroes against each other, breaking the team from the inside. This division leaves Earth vulnerable to greater threats, as proven when Thanos arrives to find Earth's defenders scattered and weakened. Zemo didn't need to take over the world. He didn't need to kill anyone with his own hands. All he needed was a plan, and that's what makes his victory one of the darkest in Marvel history. Norman Osborn. In the Secret Invasion storyline from the comics, Norman Osborn achieved one of the biggest victories for a villain in Marvel history. During this event, the Skrulls, a race of shape-shifting aliens, secretly invaded Earth by replacing key figures with their own agents. Many heroes struggled to stop the invasion, and trust in them started to weaken. Osborn, who was in charge of the Thunderbolts at the time, took advantage of this situation. As the battle against the Skrulls reached its climax, Osborn delivered the final blow against the Skrull Queen. This made him look like the hero who saved Earth, even though many others had contributed to the fight. The public and the government saw him as a savior, while Iron Man, who had been leading the defense against the Skrulls, was blamed for the failure to prevent the invasion in the first place. Because of this, the government removed Tony Stark from his position and put Osborn in charge of both Shield and the entire superhero initiative. Once in power, Osborn restructured Shield and renamed it Hammer. He used his new authority to reshape the superhero community, creating his own group of so-called heroes. He took on the identity of Iron Patriot, a version of Iron Man designed to inspire trust, while secretly using his influence to manipulate the world. He recruited villains and disguised them as heroes, slowly turning the public against well-known figures like the Avengers. Many people believed in Osborn, unaware that he was working for his own personal gain. For a while, Osborn controlled nearly everything. He had the support of the government, the public trusted him, and he had access to advanced technology and resources. He used his position to push his own agenda, making it one of the most dangerous times for true heroes. However, his power did not last forever. Over time, his true nature was revealed, and he was eventually arrested for treason. Hammer was disbanded, and Osborn lost everything. Even though he was removed from power, his victory left a lasting impact. He had successfully turned people against the heroes they once trusted, and his time as the leader of the world's security forces showed how easily someone could manipulate public opinion. This made Secret Invasion one of the darkest moments in Marvel history, proving that sometimes the greatest threat does not come from aliens or superpowered beings, but from the people who take advantage of fear and chaos. Dr. Doom. Dr. Doom is one of Marvel's most iconic villains, has achieved several victories over the years, proving himself as one of the most dangerous minds in the universe. Unlike other villains who constantly fail, Doom has succeeded in his goals multiple times, whether by outsmarting his rival Reed Richards, Mr. Fantastic, or even taking over the world. One of Doom's biggest victories came when he helped the Fantastic Four in a moment of crisis. Sue Storm, Invisible Woman, was pregnant with her daughter Valeria, but complications threatened her life. Reed, despite being one of the smartest minds in the Marvel Universe, couldn't save her. Desperate, he had no choice but to turn to Doom for help. Doom not only saved Valeria, but possibly saved Sue as well. This allowed him to do something Reed couldn't, giving him the satisfaction of telling Reed to his face that he had succeeded where his greatest rival had failed. Beyond this, Doom has actually conquered the world multiple times. Unlike most villains who dream of world domination but never succeed, Doom has ruled the planet and held on to power. In many cases, when heroes eventually tried to overthrow him, they failed. The only reason Doom ever stepped down was out of boredom. He had already won, and ruling the world no longer interested him. Dr. Doom is unique because he is not just a villain who wants destruction for the sake of it. He truly believes he is the only one capable of ruling the world properly. Mr. Fear. Mr. Fear's greatest victory over Daredevil came in the Without Fear storyline, where he caused devastating psychological damage that Matt Murdock could never fully recover from. One of Mr. Fear's worst acts was drugging Mila Donovan, Daredevil's wife. He exposed her to a special chemical that altered her mind, driving her to insanity. This wasn't just an attack on Daredevil's personal life, it was permanent damage that destroyed Mila's future. Matt Murdock, despite all his skills and intelligence, couldn't save her. Mr. Fear's actions left Mila institutionalized, and her relationship with Matt was shattered forever. This was a big win for Mr. Fear, proving that he could ruin Daredevil's life without ever throwing a punch. Mr. Fear also manipulated Melvin Potter, also known as the Gladiator, who had been trying to reform and live a peaceful life. Using his fear-inducing chemicals, Mr. Fear forced Melvin back into violence, turning him against Daredevil. This wasn't just about causing a big mess, it was about proving that no one could truly escape their past. By breaking Melvin's will, he showed that even those seeking redemption were still vulnerable to his influence. Another one of his most dangerous weapons was the memory scent, a chemical that forced men to relive memories of their greatest love. This wasn't just a simple mind trick. It was a way to control and manipulate people through their strongest emotions. In the wrong hands, this kind of power could completely warp someone's mind and make them act against their own interests, showing just how deep Mr. Fear's psychological warfare could go. Perhaps the most terrifying part of Mr. Fear's success is that prison doesn't stop him. While most criminals fear getting locked up, Mr. Fear thrives in prison, where his abilities make him untouchable. He can manipulate other inmates and guards, making his life behind bars comfortable. More importantly, he can escape whenever he pleases, returning to haunt Daredevil over and over again. Mr. Fear's greatest win wasn't a single moment, it was the long-term destruction he caused in Daredevil's life. He didn't just beat Daredevil in a fight, he ruined his marriage, destroyed lives, and left scars that would never heal. And that was enough to make him the biggest villain ever. Kraven the Hunter. In Kraven's last hunt, Kraven the Hunter achieved one of the most brutal victories over Spider-Man in Marvel Comics history. Kraven carefully planned his attack, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. When he finally confronted Spider-Man, he overpowered him and shot him with a tranquilizer rifle. To the world, it looked like Spider-Man had been killed. Kraven then buried him alive, sealing his victory in one of the darkest moments in Spider-Man's life. After defeating Spider-Man, Kraven put on a replica of his costume and took his place. For 2 weeks, he hunted criminals in a much more violent and ruthless way than Spider-Man ever would. He wanted to show that he could do the job better, proving that he was the true superior hunter. Unlike Spider-Man, who showed restraint, Kraven used extreme force, terrorizing criminals and asserting his dominance. However, Spider-Man was not truly dead. He eventually fought his way out of the grave and returned to confront Kraven. But before Spider-Man could take revenge or bring him to justice, Kraven ended his own life. He had already accomplished everything he wanted, he said. He defeated Spider-Man, proved his superiority, and fulfilled his personal mission. Rather than being captured or defeated, he chose to leave on his own terms. Kraven's victory was final. He had already won before Spider-Man could stop him, making this one of the darkest and most haunting moments in Marvel Comics. It was not just about physical defeat, it was a psychological blow to Spider-Man, forcing him to face the fact that he had been buried alive while someone else took his place. Kraven had no regrets, no fear, and no hesitation. In the end, he dictated his own fate, ensuring that his legacy as the ultimate hunter would never be forgotten. Namor. Namor was the villain in Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. He might have lost the battle against Wakanda, but in the end, he still got what he wanted. His goal was never just to crush Wakanda. It was to protect Talokan from the dangers of the surface world. And even though he surrendered, he made sure his people would have a strong ally in the future. At first, it looked like he had the upper hand. His attack on Wakanda was brutal. He flooded the city, caused massive destruction, and even killed Queen Ramonda. He wanted to force Wakanda to see things his way, to make them realize that the surface world would eventually come for them both. But Shuri, the new Black Panther, refused to bow to his demands. She outsmarted him in their final fight, drying him out and forcing him to surrender. It looked like he had lost. But Namor is a strategist. He didn't see his surrender as true defeat. He saw it as a long-term victory. By ending the war on Wakanda's terms, he ensured that Talokan would not be exposed or destroyed. More importantly, he knew that one day, Wakanda would need his help. He told his people that Wakanda was now alone in the world, surrounded by enemies. When the time comes, Namor believes Wakanda will have no choice but to side with him. So in a way, Namor won by losing. He may have been beaten in battle, but he secured a future where his nation would remain strong and protected. His war against the surface world isn't over. It's just waiting for the right moment. And that's how some Marvel villains got their darkest victories. Which one do you think was the scariest? Let me know in the comments below, and if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe for more.